Morano. This is my favorite portion of the show, but it's because it's where you get to hear both sides of the burning political issues of the day. And here to help us break it down, we have Republican strategist, philanthropist, and business leader Joseph Pinion. Although you called me before and said Pinion. Do you pronounce it Pinion or Pinion?
Well, you know, I always say, you know, Brother Tobacco loves to put a little Italian flair on it.
Well, how do you say it?
It's Pinion, like
Pinion.
a pinion without the
Well, I was thinking of Pinion. And on the left, we have Democratic strategist and former Bloomberg advisor Chris Coffey. Gentlemen, welcome.
Good to be here.
Chris, let me begin with you, since a candidate that you're very familiar with is making a lot of news today. Mike Bloomberg appearing in his first poll. He's already ahead of Kamala Harris. He's polling fifth with 6% nationally. Now, after this much TV airtime, did you expect him to be a little higher at this point?
He's only been up for a week. He's been up for 5 days.
But he's blanketing the whole country.
These folks have been running for months, years. Some of them have been running for years. So they're at 2% and 1%. Mike Bloomberg's been running for 6 days of TV time, and he is in fifth right now. His innovative strategy, I think, might make some waves in this race.
Joe, what do you think? First, handicap his chances at getting the nomination, and then tell me how you think he fares in a hypothetical general election with Donald Trump.
Look, I honestly think he's got about a 30 to 35% chance of the nomination, strictly because I think that we're going to have a brokered convention on the left. I think people have said that I'm a lunatic, but I think if you look at the trajectory here, you look at the fact that all the moderate candidates, or supposedly moderate candidates, you look at the Kamala Harris, you look at a Biden, you look at somebody like a Booker, they're all basically running out of money, which means they're also running out of time. And I think if you look at the fact that somebody like Joe Biden, whose entire kind of narrow, kind of tenuous national lead is based on black voters, you know, you have a situation right now where Bloomberg has the opportunity to basically have the money to blanket the South, to blanket the black belt, and say that, look, I am the person with the resources who can go toe-to-toe with President Trump.
Chris, how do you handicap a general election?
Yeah, I mean, that sounded pretty good. I don't know. I mean, a general election, I think Mike is the person in the race who is a self-made billionaire, very successful tech entrepreneur, started his own company, parked cars to pay his way through college. Like, this isn't someone who inherited his money from dad or dad's real estate company. He, like, built his own company. And
I don't know if you saw the clip over the weekend, but he was on PBS with Margaret Hoover, and he said Xi Jinping of China isn't a dictator. I mean, does that kind of analysis show that he's maybe a little out of touch with where the world is right now?
I didn't see the clip, but I think Mike is going to say that one thing you know about Mike is he's not a politician. He's going to say what he means. He's going to mean what he says. Sometimes that's going to be a little out of stream with either the far right, the far left, or the mediums. He's going to have positions that are a little bit different, but he's going to go out and do what he says. And then he's going to have a record to run on, things that he's actually done.
All right, well, let's talk about impeachment. The House Intelligence Committee has prepared and released their impeachment report. Tomorrow, the House Judiciary Committee is going to begin holding their hearings. They've announced who they're going to be calling. Mostly it's constitutional scholars. Donald Trump was asked about it this morning from the NATO summit, and he was asked also about the possibility of censure instead of impeachment. This is what the president said.
Nothing wrong. You don't censure somebody when they did nothing wrong. They're in search of a crime. That's what they are. They're what you call an investigation in search of a crime. There was no, not only wasn't there a crime, it's not even a word that should be used.
Look, here's the reality. I think that as soon as Republicans arrive on the message that we all knew we were going to arrive at from day one, which is that it's possible that what the president did was improper, but it is not an impeachable offense, the better off we're all going to be as a party and as a nation. I think it's readily apparent also that Democrats have failed to meet the burden that they've been trying to assert. They've asserted from day one that President Trump withheld aid in exchange for dirt. It turns out they don't have a phone call with President Trump saying, you get no money if you don't give me my dirt. All the witnesses they called forth have said unequivocally that President Trump never told them directly that they were supposed to be withholding aid in exchange for dirt. And so ultimately you have a situation where Democrats are trying to impeach a president where the data in the swing states all across America says that Americans, and independents in particular, don't want it.
Chris, tell me how you think impeachment plays out on the merits and then politically.
Yeah. On the merits, you have a president that was using politics to influence foreign policy. And what he did was if not illegal, pretty close to illegal. And so I think I think we should expect him to get impeached, if not censured. He won't be. I don't think he'll be convicted.
So let's assume that's the case.
Yeah.
Isn't this all sort of a waste of time? Would
Well,
Congress be better
So what does that mean?
passing like
Does that-
legislation
does that
like
mean
USMCA?
Does that mean because the parties are such that Republicans control the Senate, that if the president breaks the law, you just let it go? Like, I don't think that's the precedent we should set. Certainly when the Republicans held the House and it was the other way around, I don't think they would have done that. They didn't do that with the
Well, that was a little different
look,
because you had 30 Democrats in the House voting with the Republicans to impeach Bill Clinton, and there was a lot of concern, and there were even some Democrats that were going the other way. There was bipartisan support, at least some, for impeachment.
We don't know where the Senate's going to go. People like Susan Collins have tough races ahead. I think the politics of this is interesting. I mean, I'm not sure that it's in the Democrats' best interest. Nancy Pelosi obviously didn't think so for the first couple years that Trump was in office, but I think it's so overwhelming that she has to do something, and whether it's successful or not, I think you
Joe,
can't not do
let
anything.
me ask you, we're going to talk to Governor Weld in a few minutes, and before he was governor of Massachusetts, he was a federal prosecutor, put a lot of high-profile organized crime chieftains in prison,
right.
And what they tend to have in common is they don't overtly spell out exactly how to carry out criminal schemes. It's a lot of intuition, there's a lot of nodding, there's a lot of facial gestures. What about all these people that testified before Congress and said that Donald Trump never explicitly said that this was a quid pro quo, but that was the clear implication? Even if it's not impeachable, isn't that wrong?
Well, here's the thing. I think if you look at it from a specific standpoint of saying what moves the American public, I think you have a lot of people who looked at those hearings. They didn't necessarily know exactly what Democrats are trying to say, because when Monday started, we were talking about quid pro quo. By the time we got to Wednesday, we were talking about bribery. By the time we got to Friday, we were talking about obstruction of justice. And so this has very much been this kind of throw everything at the wall, see what sticks approach. And when you've had Democrats saying before the president even took the oath of office, we're going to impeach this president, to when you have individuals saying words that we can't repeat on television about what they want to do to the president, it creates this impression politically that, again, they're, as the president said, in search of a crime. And so ultimately you arrive, I pushed back a little bit to the point where you're saying that, hey, well, what are you supposed to do? Democrats had been doing what you're supposed to do. The investigations had been ongoing. All this information has been preserved for posterity purposes. But what they're doing now with this crunch timeline is you're going to end up pulling 6 of the 7 people running for president off the trail.
Chris, we'll give you the last
20
word.
days before.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're giving the president a lot of credit. I don't think he knew it was illegal. I think he's totally has no idea what's going on. He just did whatever he thought he would do if he was running a business, didn't know that it was illegal, did something illegal, and now he's got to pay the price.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you. I hope you'll both come back soon. This has been a lot of fun. And I hope you'll stay with us when we come back on Liquid Lunch here on Newsmax TV. I'm Frank Morano.